guys, my name is Lacie of spookylipsandfathips and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm not sure how I feel about my eyeliner today. Also, from like this angle, it looks like I'm not wearing a top, but I am, I promise. I know that there is a lot of anxiety and fear and uncertainty in the world right now. Things are very scary, obviously, for everybody, but in my household, because Matt is a direct care provider, him and his staff and the people that he takes care of, there's a lot of anxiety there. And then for me, I'm getting ready to start a new job, but my new job is in like the health/medical sphere. So that gives me a lot of anxiety. I'm afraid for just my community and the world. And just in general, uncertainty is, you know, one of my triggers for my panic disorder. I think maybe I'd feel a little bit calmer if I had any faith in my government in general, but I don't. But anyway, that's not a video about that. All of that being said though, I want to just make fun content this week. I want to be a distraction for people. I want to do this as a way to distract myself. I know that I've been watching a lot of YouTube to kind of cope with all of this and to self-soothe and to distract myself and to entertain myself as I self-quarantine to the best that I can. And I obviously suggest that everybody else practice self-quarantine if they can, as well as just all of the guidelines like washing your hands, avoiding the public, all that stuff as guidelined by the World Health Organization. But anyway, I want to make fun content this week while all of this is happening in the world, and I hope that's okay with you guys. I don't want to contribute to fears or anxieties. I don't really want to talk about it, to be perfectly honest, beyond just this video, because I don't want to spread false information. I don't want to make anyone's anxiety worse. I just want to be a distraction. I think a lot of content creators right now just want YouTube to be a distraction for themselves and other people, and I hope that's okay. And if you think that by not talking about everything that's happening in the world, that's insensitive or irresponsible, I don't know. I can only do what I think is best. That being said, just to put some lighthearted fun into the world, some positivity into the world, today I'm going to be stealing a video idea from my beautiful tall goddess friend Nisipisa. Nisa recently on her channel put up a video just basically giving advice to questions that people submitted to her basically. And then I did the same thing. I asked you guys on my Instagram what things you would like for me to give you advice about. And I got wildly different subjects than what Nisa was asked, which I think makes this like so much more fun. Disclaimer time, obviously I'm not a doctor, a therapist, a lawyer, a life coach, or really anybody who should be giving advice ever. I'm just somebody who has lived a life of 28 years on this earth, who has gone through a lot of stuff, and given my experiences going through a lot of the situations that you guys asked for advice on, having lived through it and seen the other side of a lot of these situations, I can tell you about how I went about doing that, my experiences, you know, dealing with some of this stuff. And maybe that can help you, but if you are to follow any of my advice or guidelines or any of the above, do so at your own risk. I can't guarantee the results, so to speak. But you guys had really fun things that you wanted me to talk about, and I saved everything on my phone. Right off the bat, advice on finding your personal makeup style and distinguishing your interests from trends. I don't think trends are inherently a bad thing. I think like bandwagoning and like trend hopping is seen as a bad thing because I think people think that denotes that you don't have your own personal style. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think you can definitely figure out what it is that you do like from trends that come and go. Like for example, I'm really into the whole like high-waisted pant thing that's happening right now with like either crop tops or shirts tucked into high-waisted pants. Like this is a crop top that I actually I took from Hannah's Closet. But I'm really into that right now, and I wouldn't have really been exposed to that had it not been a trend that's happening. I'm also really into the heavy blush thing that's happening right now. Heavy blush across the nose, all of that stuff. And I think trends can help you find your own style because you're practicing different looks, and through that you're gonna find what works for you and what you feel best in. So I think really if you're interested in trying a look or interested in trying like a style or a technique or whatever, do it. and see how it makes you feel. I think a lot of people look at like outside fashion and outside styles as a thing of like, oh, I could never do that. But the answer is, of course you can. The difference between you and somebody else rocking that thing is that they decided to put it on their body that day, and you can decide to put it on your body. So I think just trying things, seeing how it goes, seeing how it makes you feel, and not really worrying about how other people respond to it. I think that's the key here. And the same kind of line of questioning, how do you rock a unique style without feeling like everybody is staring? You just don't care. Like, I know that's easier said than done, but if I let people staring at me stop me from wearing any of the things that I wear, I wouldn't leave the house like this, because people stare at me every time I leave the house. Just, I don't know if that's like a weird thing to say, but I notice people staring at me all the time. Sometimes it's cool, like sometimes people are staring at me and then like give me a compliment. Sometimes it's like boomers being very scared because I'm walking near them kind of a stare. But just know that other people's reactions to you, you have no control over. People are going to think what they want to think about you, but you have 100% control over how you feel about yourself. And as long as you feel good about yourself, that's what matters, because you're the person that you're making happy. At the end of the day, you're the only person you can make happy at the end of the day. Also, just in like a very logical line of questioning, how does somebody staring at you actually affect you? It doesn't. Like, it might make you feel like weird and uncomfortable, but if you don't let it, then what impact does someone staring at you truly have in your life? It doesn't. You're gonna keep it moving. You're gonna keep on living your life. That's a stranger you're never gonna see again. Fuck them. Oh, relevant. How to be kinder to yourself about not getting a job in your field right out of college. I have a job I love at a restaurant right now and don't want to leave, but I'm feeling pressured to leave it for a job in my field that I know I wouldn't like as much. Advice? This is very new territory for me. If you've watched my channel at all in like the last 1 to 2 years, you'd know that this is something that I've been very hung up on for like all of my adult life, is like proving that I wasn't a loser by working in my field. And now I'm very excited to be starting a job that is not in my field. It is not the thing that I went to college for twice to do. And there is a part of me that has to reckon with that, so to speak, and has to like deal with the emotions of like, does that make me less than? And honestly, like thinking about it logically, why would it? Why would doing a job that I can be successful at and that can pay like the money that I need it to pay me, like why would that make me less than? If anything, I feel really good about myself right now because I've never had such a professional adult job in my life. And I'm just like excited to see where it takes me. And I think I don't want to be like cheesy grandma over here, but I feel like life is way too short to do shit that doesn't make you happy. And if you're already happy at a job, that can open doors for you that you might not have considered before. And that's okay. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And I think that's also very much a cultural thing. Again, I can only ever speak for America, but I feel like in America, there's very much this pressure of like, have a focus, have a plan, go to college, do the thing, be in an industry, be successful. And the reality of the world is we all just kind of try a lot of stuff until we see what sticks for us. So I would say, stay where you're happiest, truthfully. But if in the long term, this is where it gets complicated. If you think in the long term you're going to regret not pursuing your field, and that kind of complicates things. That's what I'm worried about. I don't know if I feel that yet or not, but I do know I can always change. So that's kind of where I am with this, is like, even if you stay at your job now, know that a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you can still make a career change. You're not stuck any place forever. That's kind of what I'm at right now, is if I open this new door in my life, I might like it, I might love it, I might hate it. It doesn't mean I'm stuck there forever. And that's okay. In general, I had a couple people asking about like tarot reading and how to get good at reading tarot and things like that. I would say step number 1 is to pick a deck that works for you, that really calls to you, that fits you and your style. There are thousands upon thousands of tarot decks in the world. I will link a website that I like to use that gives you little like reviews and previews of decks and things like that, and it's organized by theme and stuff, because you truly should be picking a deck that speaks to you. I think that's the #1 best thing you can do. When I was first getting into tarot reading, the women at the New Age store that I shopped at were telling me that I should be able to flip through the cards and get like an idea of what all the cards mean without even looking in the book. And that's a good sign that that's a good fit for me. I believe in that advice. I will lend that advice. And it's just one of those things that you really have to practice. It's like a language. Once you know it and understand it, you have it and you're good, and you can translate that through a lot of different decks. I'm someone who collects tarot and oracle decks. I have like over 200 decks. Read for yourself, read for anyone who will let you read for them. Do very simple like 3-card spreads just so you can get an idea of what individual cards mean and how to tie them with other cards. Most decks come with little pamphlets that tell you what the meanings of each cards are, or there's great websites like Biddy Tarot that you can just type in a card and it'll pop up meanings. Really big, extensive, long meanings and very short, quick reference meanings. There are a lot of great books like Around the Tarot in 78 Days or the Tarot Bible, all great resources. And also I would say journaling is a really good way to learn tarot too, where you draw like 1 to multiple cards a day and kind of jot down the textbook meaning of each card or what you think the meaning is, the feelings you get from those cards, and that kind of repetition also helps you. Dumbed down guide to how to keep plants alive. Let me get a prop. Okay, I have my plant friend as my prop. I feel like there's a couple reasons why people feel like they're bad at having houseplants. The first reason is people don't understand the kind of lighting that they have. So I recommend using the free Compass app on your phone and point it in the directions of your windows and figure out what directions your windows face, and that's going to tell you what kind of lighting you have. So in my home, I have big, beautiful windows that face east-west, which means I get very bright morning light in the east and very, very bright afternoon light in the west. This allows me to have a lot of greenery everywhere because I have a lot of light that will support a lot of greenery. If you have like a north window, let's say, that's not a lot of light, and you need to plan from there as to what kinds of plants you can have and what kind of light. So you can Google best plants for northern exposures, best plants for western exposures, so on and so forth. You cannot have a plant in a room with no sunlight. If you can't read a book without a light on in that room, you probably can't have a plant in that room. And also, a lot of plants that are labeled low light plants is a whole lot of bullshit. There's really, in my opinion, not a lot of plants that are truly low light. There's a lot of plants that will tolerate but not thrive in low light, and then there's a lot of plants that will just die slowly in low light. Not a lot of plants that will thrive in low light. So step #1, understand your lighting. I would say more so than lighting though, the #1 killer of houseplants is overwatering. I think most people feel like, oh my god, it's a plant, I need to give it water every single day or every couple days or even once a week, and all of that is bullshit. And I think like when we're truly in summer and like the weather's nice and everything's kind of maybe more back to normal, I might do a guide to like plant parenting. This is gonna be so much more long-winded than I wanted, but with watering, your plants need so much less water than you think they do, and very often they're going to tell you when they need water. If you're a super, super heavy-handed waterer, there's a couple things you can do. One, I would recommend getting like a water reader from the internet. I have a soil meter. I don't know where it is right now because I actually stopped relying on it because I've gotten really good at knowing when my plants need water. But basically you would stick it down where the roots are and it tells you how wet the soil is, because very often the top of the soil will look dry but the bottom will still have water in it, and you're drowning your plants and you're giving them root rot. Like even right now the soil pretty much looks dry on this plant, but I can feel that it's that the pot's heavier, so I know that there's still water in the bottom. That's another thing. Lift your plants up. Get used to how they feel. I know what this pot feels like if it's totally dry because it'll be a lot lighter than what it is now. You can also look at the plant itself. This is a plant that will droop a little bit when it's dry, and then you give it a little bit of water and it perks right back up. I find that if you're a newbie with plants, opting for plants that have like leaves and foliage versus like cacti or succulents is a much better option, because foliage is going to speak to you. It's going to drop and droop when it needs water. You don't want to ignore that for too long, but it's helpful. Whereas a cactus is just going to straight up die on you and it's not going to give you a warning. Same with the succulent. It's just going to rot and it's not going to give you a warning. Also with watering, do not water on a schedule, meaning like don't be like every Friday night I'm going to water. Don't do that, because Plants aren't on a schedule. Plants just use water as they need water, so you're gonna probably overwater your plants if you do it on a schedule. Also, I cannot recommend terracotta enough, because terracotta clay pots will, you know, lick moisture away from the roots. So if you are heavy-handed with your watering, that's a really good way to make sure that water is not sitting in the soil. Also, anything with a drainage hole is fantastic, because it's going to dump excess water out of the pot, obviously. I do not recommend getting decorative planters that don't have holes in the bottom, and if you do, I don't have any examples, do I? If you do, leave them in their nursery pots and just use it as like a cash po, just use it as decoration, and remove the like nursery pot with the hole in it when it's time to water, just so you have that drainage. Really, truly, treat your plants like teenagers. Like, check in on them every once in a while, but for the most part, they just want their space and their privacy. Ignore them most of the time, and they'll be fine. I cannot express enough how overwatering is probably like the #1 killer of houseplants. Just stop it. Stop overwatering your plants. This person says they have a coworker that doesn't do work and follows them around all day. What do you do? I mean, I've worked a lot of jobs and I've worked with a lot of shitty people, and I think you have to kind of understand that shitty coworkers are a part of life. However, there's a fine line between this person does their job and doesn't infringe on my job, so I'm just gonna have to grin and bear the fact that they're annoying, versus this person's incompetence is stopping me from being able to do my job, and that's a problem. When that happens, I think first you should always try to take it up with that person as peacefully as you can. And I'm saying that as someone who's been a manager before. Most management doesn't want to have to deal with this thing unless it's the absolute worst case scenario. You know, politely say to this person like, hey, I'm working on this. Do you mind like going to work on this right now? And just like doing it in a very nice, positive way. And from there, if they really don't get it or they get hostile, then escalate it to management and just explain, you know, I'm trying to do my job, but this is what this person's doing. This is how it directly impacts me, and see if you can come to some kind of resolution about it. But truly, like, if you can't ignore it, ignore it. If you have to take it up with that person, do so politely. And then I personally think escalating to management or HR should be your last case scenario. Making friends as an adult. I'm not good at that one. I'm pretty much a hermit, but hobbies, I would say hobbies are definitely probably the only way you can make friends as an adult. Most of my friends I've met through doing YouTube, because this is my hobby. I imagine I'll make new friends at work, hopefully, if I'm not too awkward. But yeah, if you know, have a hobby, go do it out in the world. If you are someone who likes crafting, go to crafting classes or art classes. Museums, I'm a big museum person. That would be like a cool way for me to meet people, is if I actually went out to like art events and saw speakers talk and like went to cool fancy things like that, but I don't do any of that. Tips for writing a 2 weeks notice and transitioning to a new job. Well, one, get your new job lined up, but really for a 2 weeks notice or whatever, however amount of notice that you're giving, you just want to be respectful as possible and say, you know, to whom it may concern, I will be parting ways on this exact date. Thank you for everything you've given me. I will take the lessons that I've learned from this company and carry it with me to my next opportunity. Blah, 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 blah. This is no reflection of the company, etc. Just basically be as nice as you can and a little bit ass-kissy so that you're not burning the bridge with that company in case you ever have to fall back on them. But basically just like, you know, say what you're doing and say thanks. Interview and resume tips. How to keep up spirits during a job search. Oh man, I feel ya. I was not doing well through the entirety of my job search. For interviews, basically every interview I've ever gone on has asked me the same question, just phrased differently, or the same questions I should say, but phrased differently each and every time. You really just want to perfect those answers. So I'm always asked, like, what do I do if I have to work with somebody difficult? An experience of a difficult guest or client? How do I deal with miscommunications? Weaknesses? Who's been my worst manager in the past? Who's been the best? I've been asked those things multiple times through various different interviews. So I feel like familiarizing yourself with the job you're applying to and the company you're applying yourself for, as well as just having a general idea of what your answers are to those kind of general interview questions, are always a great idea. Practice interviewing with different people. I have a couple friends who are hiring managers, so I like to, you know, ask them what they think I should say in these situations, what they would be looking for in these situations. Don't be afraid in an interview to say, oh, I need a second to think about this, because it is on the fly, and a lot of interviewers do understand that you weren't given the questions ahead of time. Like, the one that always trips me up is like, think of a particularly difficult client you've had in the past and how did you deal with it. And I wish so badly I can say like, every client is in some way difficult and it always works out fine. I also really wish in interviews I could just be like, listen, if you hire me, I will show up when I'm supposed to show up, do my job really well, and then leave when I'm supposed to leave, and it'll be great for everyone involved. But you can't say that. But anyway, relax. You know, the interviewers are people too. They know that you're nervous. Trust me, and it's okay to be like, huh, and like take a second to reflect on it. When it comes to the resume thing though, I do have very specific advice for this. My first piece of advice is to not copy and paste like formats you get online, because a friend of mine who is a hiring manager at some kind of big organization was telling me that a lot of HR departments and a lot of hiring departments actually have like software that filters out resumes that are just copy pasted templates. So you don't want to do that. Look online for like ideas of how to template a resume. Is that the correct way to phrase that sentence? I don't know. But don't copy paste anything. You don't have to put every single thing you've ever done on your resume. That's something that I struggled with. I wanted to include every ounce of anything that was relevant to a job search in my resume. You don't have to do that. I have just my most recent couple of jobs, my education, a general like blurb about skills that I think apply to the kinds of jobs that I was applying for. It's also a good idea to have more than one resume. Like for instance, Matt has like his direct care provider type of resume, but he also has his like stockroom / warehouse worker resume because he's worked both jobs in the past. That's not a bad idea either. You're really going to shine in your cover letter. Your cover letter should never be just a regurgitation of what's in your resume. You should be specifically pulling from the job listing and taking new things from like your past work experience, your past education, as well as like, you know, referencing your resume and tying that directly into why you're experienced enough for that job. So for example, something that I did in college was I worked with like a community garden, and we did partnerships with all different kinds of organizations that are in the community, various different ways, blah, blah, blah. That's not on my resume, but for a lot of jobs that I applied to, I took like, not only do I have this degree that is listed on my resume, but during this degree, I did this thing and did all of this outreach and worked with all of these people and partnerships, and all of this is relevant because of this that you're looking for in your job. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. It's annoying. It's really frustrating because you should be making an individual cover letter for every job you apply to. And it's a lot, and it is demotivating because it sucks to have to sell yourself to so many people, and the whole thing sucks. My final piece of advice on that though is to show your resume and your cover letters to as many eyes as possible, like individually in your life. So anyone you know who is a hiring manager, even if it's not relevant to what you're applying to, anyone in your life that like has experience doing this, who is a professional, send them your shit for like a second opinion. I know that Teresa's dad and Emily Hanhan, both here on YouTube, both wonderful people. They were like my hiring board, basically, for the last couple months. They were like my own personal HR service, and I can never thank them enough for that because I was constantly sending my updated resumes and cover letters to them to see what they thought of it because they had experience, you know, doing that and writing these things, and they gave me really valuable second opinions on things that I probably wouldn't have my current job without them. So having other people look at it is extremely important, and it's embarrassing and it sucks, but you're selling yourself, and that's just sucky, but you have to do it. A lot of people were asking about body positivity, as specifically this person says how to embrace and feel confident being a big girl with a society that's so anti-fat. I will say that body confidence is not like a linear battle. It's not like now that I am confident in my body, I never have days where I'm sad or I feel bad about myself. I do. I have my bad days like everybody else. I do think it's getting better. I think as we get exposure to all different types of people and all different shapes and sizes and walks of life and all different, you know, genders, races, ethnicities, backgrounds, I think there's a lot of good diversity that's being presented in the media right now, and that's helping a lot of the stigma right now, but we still have a long way to go. For me, These are steps that I took that I saw made a noticeable difference and led to my current state of like truly loving myself. So I will share those steps with you, but everybody is individual. And like I said, it's an uphill battle and you're going to have your off days, but that's okay. Number 1, stop looking at what everybody else is doing. I frequently will say, like on the podcast, for instance, like keep your eyes on your own paper. What I mean by this is when you stop judging other people, you feel the judgment of other people lifted off of yourself, which is a quote that I'm stealing from Courtney Act from an episode of But truly, I noticed that when I stopped caring about what other people were doing, I directly stopped feeling like everybody else was caring about what I was doing. So what I mean by that is when you catch yourself judging other people silently, it doesn't have to be like an outward, like, oh my god, who the fuck do you think you are, bitch, kind of thing. It could be an internal thing, like seeing someone and being like, oh, why would they leave the house like that? Why are they wearing that? When you check yourself and you think, hey, that doesn't affect me at all in the slightest, and that person can do whatever the hell they want as long as they're not hurting themselves or other people, who the fuck cares? When you can make that like an instinctual thought in your body, that is so freeing because it teaches you to feel that way about yourself, that it doesn't matter what you do because what you do has no effect on other people as long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself. So who the fuck cares? It's a two-way street, very much so. And it takes a minute to kind of like break out of that. I think it's about correcting the thought when it happens. So when you catch yourself being like, ew, who does this bitch think she is wearing that? Think to yourself, wait, stop, actually, it doesn't matter. Work it, fierce, good for that person. I'm going to continue on my way now, and then soon it will become second nature and you won't think twice about other people anymore. That to me is a direct one-to-one correlation with how you feel like other people are thinking about you. 2, stop the self-deprecation, which is something that I did throughout my whole life. My whole life, my instinct was to beat people to the punchline. If I could make the shitty comment about myself first, it stopped other people from making the shitty comment about myself, and it very much became like a wall that I was putting up. But the problem with that is I truly believed it. I truly believed the terrible shitty things that I was saying about myself. And you could say, oh, it's just a joke, dude. But jokes have power. And Nisa talks about this in her Q&A or her advice video of like the implications of jokes and what they mean culturally. Jokes have power, and when you continuously say something about yourself, when you continuously joke about how awful and disgusting you are and blah, 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 your brain believes it. And again, it's one of those things where you have to practice correcting the thought. So when you say something about yourself or you think those things about yourself, stop yourself and go, wait, that's not true. When you catch yourself being like, oh, you stupid bitch, who would ever love you or whatever the fuck. Like, I'm guilty of that. I'm very guilty of like putting myself down intelligence-wise. I have to stop myself and be like, that's not true. You're smart. Everything's fine. Keep it moving. Work on correcting those thoughts. And the last part of it is like truly accepting the logical, true fact that you only will ever have control over how you feel about yourself. So you might as well do the shit that makes you happy. Again, within reason, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Especially as somebody who's on the internet and had to kind of have this battle again in life after having it once after graduating school, and second having to battle this battle, I'm repeating myself a lot in this video, having to battle this fight like again being on social media. I will only ever have control over what I think about myself. I will never in this universe be able to control what other people think or feel about me. I just can't. I wish I could, but I can't. I wish everyone on this earth loved me and thought I was amazing and hilarious and wanted to be my friend, but people will always hate me, and that's okay. That has nothing to do with me. That's their gig. Like, keep my eyes on my own paper. I'll say it again. Because I will never have control over other people, I can only do what makes myself happy, and I can only live in a way that's most authentic to myself. Because like I said, I'll say it one more time, I'm the only person I'll ever have control over. I have beaten this into my head so much, and I truly believe it. There's no part of me that has to tell myself this anymore. I just believe this as a reflex now. I know it as a fact. When it comes to the body thing, I think the best way I can put it is that, and I've said this before on the podcast, but I'll say it in a video, I personally believe that self-love is unconditional, but it's not blind. So what I mean by that is, we all have things that we want to work on. We all have things that we want to change. I have things in my life about myself that I want to change. that I want to change them for me, for my health, for my life, has nothing to do with how other people feel about me. I can still love myself throughout that whole process, and I'm deserving of love throughout that whole process. There's never a reason why you're not deserving of love. Watching this back, I don't think I'm being clear enough. So what I mean by love is unconditional, it means that you love yourself no matter what because you're deserving of love no matter what, which is what I said. But the blind part is, like, loving yourself to an extent where you can still recognize the areas in your life where you need to improve, and you're not just convincing yourself to settle for yourself. You're still working towards achieving the best version of yourself. But like I said, you're still worthy of love during that entire process. And I think so often we find reasons why we don't deserve love for ourselves or from other people, and that's just bullshit. You're a human being and you're deserving of love on this earth. That's just a fact. I think when you're a socially unaccepted body type and you do love yourself, that's hard for a lot of people because they've been told their whole lives that looking that way is the worst thing that they can be. And it freaks people out to see the status quo questioned, so to speak. But I'm so sorry I'm a broken record, and I know I say this on the podcast too. Happy, secure people don't worry about what other people are doing. They worry about themselves. I genuinely believe that. And if people want to be shitty to me and want to be shitty about what I look like, that probably says a lot more about them than it does me, and that's not my business. Again, this is something that I taught myself enough, that I told myself enough to the point where I genuinely believe this, and it's not something that I have to keep reassuring myself with. It's something that I just genuinely believe now. It's not an easy thing to deal with. It's something that you have to work on every day. You'll have worse days than others, but I think surrounding yourself with positive people, practicing acts of self-care, like wearing the thing you want to wear just because you want to wear it, being kinder to yourself, speaking kinder to yourself, acknowledging truths in your life, like the fact that your body is a utilitarian thing and has a job to do. Your body's job is to keep you alive. Your body's job isn't necessarily to look good for any reason. It's to keep you alive. So if you want to decorate it in a way that makes you feel happy, if you want to treat it with kindness, that just it's a bonus, you know? I don't think it does you any good to treat your body or yourself with hatred. I don't think it does you any good to treat yourself with, toxic thoughts. I think that just makes your body have a harder time in this world, honestly. I don't know, this is a very long-winded answer, but I wanted to spend some time on this because it's something that I care about, and I know that it's a struggle for a lot of people. Just know that you're not alone struggling with, your body, struggling with body acceptance, body positivity. It sucks, and the world is set up to kind of pick on us, and it's very real, and fat phobia is definitely a thing. You'll never convince me that it's not. It's okay to feel good about yourself, and in fact, in a lot of ways, it's an act of rebellion to feel good about yourselves in a world like this, in a world that preys upon insecurities, and a world where everybody else is just trying to find a way to feel good about themselves, and often the way that they feel good about themselves is by putting other people down. You just gotta keep doing you, man, because at the end of the day, I'm the only person I can make happy. I cannot express that enough. You are the only person that you have control over at the end of the day, so you might as well do the things that make you happy and keep you healthy and safe and thriving in this world, because that's what matters. I'm going to end on a super light note. A couple people asked me how to do winged liner. I cannot do an eyeliner tutorial on this channel because I am so nearsighted, and I keep my mirror like this close to my face when I do my eyeliner, and I cannot film that way. I'm so sorry. So my biggest suggestion is to just practice. Everybody has a different eye shape, so the way that I do eyeliner might not even be the best way for you to do eyeliner anyway. Practice, 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 practice. Practice before you hop in the shower so that you can just wipe it off when it looks shitty. I literally can do eyeliner in my sleep because I do it every day, and I've done it every day for like the past 5 years. I've had a lot of practice. Truly practice, and also find the eyeliner style that you like. Not like look-wise, aesthetic-wise, but the eyeliner pen style or the eyeliner application style that you like. Whether you're like a gel eyeliner person, you're like a pen eyeliner person, you like brush tips, felt tips, whatever. I'm partial to brush tip pens, but you might like something different. Find the technique that works best for you and the medium that works best for you, and practice a lot. That's my suggestion. But with that, that is all of my unsolicited advice. I guess it's not unsolicited. You asked me for the advice. It's just maybe like not professionally given advice. Again, take all of this advice, any of this advice, with a grain of salt. Know that I cannot guarantee your results. I'm not an expert on anything. I am at best an egg with legs. If you like this video, if you like random kind of silly videos like this, and if you like me, please hit like and subscribe. I'm gonna try to post just like mainly lighthearted makeup things this week and next week. That's all I can really do right now. But if you like this video, like me, blah, 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 like and subscribe. You can also follow me on my Instagram, which is also spookylipsandfathips, or my Twitter at spookylacey. I'm fairly active on both of those. Links for those will be down below. I can't speak. You can also listen to me pretty much weekly on the Half Cousins podcast. That will also be linked down below. Other than that, that is all I have to say. Please keep the comments kind, obviously. These are some kind of heavy subjects, and we're in heavy-duty times right now, just in general. So please be kind to one another and practice good hygiene and social distancing. But other than that, that is all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys!